Hello, everybody. I hope you are all well. So, I thought today I would do a little tutorial showing you the fine art painterly portrait actions. That can be a little bit of a mouthful. So I'm going to use this image. You can tell it's really dark. It's underexposed. And I chose this image for that reason. So these are the fine art portrait, painterly portrait collection. And here we have soft light base. So this is a great action. It doesn't bring that light up too much where you're getting any harsh highlights. It brings it up nice and soft. So I'm going to click that. So you can see there's no like really super bright lights. Everything's really nice and soft for that beautiful soft portrait. So then we've got bring down the lights softly. So it basically does exactly the same thing, but the other way. And then we have fine art base. So fine art base is one of my favourite actions. It sets the mood of the portrait off beautifully. So I'm going to click that and hit OK. And what I tend to do is mask it off at 100% off the face. So we bring that nice soft skin back. And obviously the arms too. So anywhere you've got skin. You can just mask 50%, 40%, like whatever you want to take off and build it up. I'm just making sure that it's not on the backdrop. And for this image, I am going to mask it off the dress as well, because you can see that the vibrance of that dress has disappeared. Now, you can leave it all over and then add some red later, but I'm going to do it this way. Then I will turn it off and on and decide whether I want to take some off the hair, which I do. I'm going to switch to 40% and I'm going to take some off. So sometimes I will leave some over the skin. However, for this image, I just want it on the background basically. So you can see it just takes that blue away, that purple, but it gives it that brown tone. So it is grey, but you can see that brown tone going through. So I'm going to come to my next action, and then we've got Brighton skin. So I'm going to play it and switch to my white brush at 30% opacity, and I'm going to start just brightening wherever needs to brighten. So over the eyes, then I'll make my brush a bit bigger and I'll just come down the centre of the face. Whoops, my brush slipped then. Let's do that again. Down the neck. We can even go in the hair. It doesn't necessarily have to just be for the skin. Let's go in these hands. Okay, so anywhere you want to brighten, then brighten. I'll turn that off and on. And again, everything is nice and soft. Nothing is too harsh. And you can build up with those low opacity brushes, so you get that nice soft look. Okay, so then we've got Sweet Soul Skin Base. Now, this action does not work for every single image. It will depend on the image, depend on how many blemishes they've got and things like that. So I'm going to click it and then I will mask on so you can see. So for this image, it's not really adding anything. It's adding texture. But I don't really want texture to the skin, so if I turn that off and on, you can see it's done a little bit actually. Let's zoom out a bit. See, when you zoom out, you just get such a better view. It's so hard to tell when you're zoomed in. Right, let's turn that off and on again. Oh yeah, so look at that blend in there already. Oh, I'm happy with that. You just got to zoom out. So I am going to turn down the opacity a tiny bit. So we've gone to 86%. Okay, then we've got soft, Sweet Soul Silky Skin, which I absolutely love. Love this action. So it gives a beautiful, silky smooth look to your skin. Now, like every single action, this action won't work on every single image. Some, it might be too bright, or it might just not be the right fit. It might be too pale for their skin. But there are other actions in the collection, and you can always use the Perfect Soft Skin action, which is completely free to download from the website. So if I don't use this action, then I will use the Perfect Soft Skin action. But most of them do work for most images. Okay, let's turn that off and on. So you can see that beautiful silky skin now. I'm going to zoom in a bit. So I'm going to go for a nice soft smooth skin for this image. You can turn the opacity down if you wish to get more of a softer. So if I turn that down, you can see it's more subtle. So you can really just play around and see what you like. Okay, let's have a look. So then we've got soft and harsh light. So if you've got any harsh light on the skin at all, then use, or anywhere in the image, then use that and just use a lower opacity and build that up until you're happy. Obviously there is no harsh light on here, so I don't need to use that. Skin texture. So if you don't want super smooth, soft skin, then use a skin texture to bring back some texture, so you can see the texture in the skin coming back, if that's what you wanted for the image. And again, use different opacities. So on the forehead is a little bit strong. Whoops, I'll switch to my black brush. So anyway, you just want to add a little bit more. You can change your opacities. You can change your opacity on the layer, but if I turn that off and on, you can see the difference there. I'm not going to use it for this image, but that's what that does. And then we've got Snow White skin. So if they're really pale and you want a really pale skin, then that's a nice one. Warmer skin, if you want to warm anywhere up on the skin. So let's click that, and I'm going to mask a little bit on the hands just to match in with the arm. So anywhere that's a little bit uneven, we'll just warm up a little bit. So I do use a nice big brush, and then what I do is switch to my black brush and just make sure it's not on the eyes. So much easier. Click that on and off, so just warm that up a little bit. Then we've got Skin Toning Cool. So I'll switch to my white brush and mask that on, so you can see it really cools the skin down. Obviously it doesn't suit this image, so it's making the image, it's making her skin really desaturated. For other skin types it will suit a lot better. I'm going to turn the opacity down. So even turning the opacity down, it looks great. It looks really nice. I'm going to leave that there. And then we've got Skin Toning Warm. So if I mask that over, you can see it just warms the whole skin up, and it really starts to build that dodge and burn up for you as well. And again, I mask it straight over and then mask off the eyes every time. And then just play around with your opacity, or use lower opacity brush. And you can couple these together, the cool and the warm. And they look quite nice together as well, actually. Okay. So then what have we got? We've got Soft Bronze Burn. So before I do that, I'm going to do a quick frequency separation layer. Let's go to the background layer so it's faster. And I'm just going to fix that dark under eye. So these actions are amazing and they save you so much time, but there may still be some little things that you've got to do by hand. So image and apply image. I do have a tutorial coming on this, so I'm not going to go over it too much. Click invert and then select that layer and linear light. Right, okay, so I'm going to copy this layer underneath. So this layer is a texture layer, this layer is a colour layer. So I will be doing a tutorial on this. So I'm using a 20% opacity brush and I'm selecting a colour from here, and then I'm literally just masking it under the eyes where the dark under eyes are. And I'm then just going to blend this in a little bit. So I'm going to select from here and then mask down, select from here and mask down. And then here I'm just going to even that up a bit as well. And the shadow in the nose too. So I'm literally just evening that all up. So we'll turn that off and on. Loads better. Okay, so I'm going to add a layer mask, 100% opacity brush, and make sure it's not on the eyes. Okay, so let's come back to the top and then we'll go to the next action. So the next action is soft bronze burn. So you want to use your brush between 10 and 20% opacity. This will give a really nice warm burn, so you don't get that muddy look. So again, I'm just filling in that shadow gap there, and then I'm going to go around the shape of the nose, and then just down the centre. We can even this bit up here a little bit. And then switch to your black brush as well, and you can always take 20% off that. So it's only, even if you masked on at 20% and then took 20% off, it's only taking 20% off that. It's not taking 100% off because you use 20% both times. I think some people get a little bit confused with that. So switching between your black and white brush at 20% is great for when you're working on skin. Or 10%. Okay, so we're just evening a little bit of shadow up here. So I'm not going in too much. Lovely, lovely. And I'm going to actually use the blush from the website. So it's a single action. And at 30%, I'm just going to add a little bit of blush. So you can get that as a single action on the website. I just feel like she needs a little bit of colour in her cheeks, that's all. It's not something that I always add. So then we've got Soft Glow, which is your dodge. So I'm going to hit continue, 20% opacity, and I'm going to just go in a triangular shape under her eyes. A little bit on the forehead. I'm going to go in the whites of the eyes a little bit. Just like one click each side. Let's do a little bit more there. And then I'm going to go to Extra Glow and use a 20% opacity brush. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger this time, and I'm going to go on the cheekbones, down the nose, make it a little bit smaller, and just get that light at the tip of the nose and then down the centre. Oops. Then I'm going to go above the lip and in the lips, above the brow, under the brow a little bit, in the corners of the eyes. Let's just take a little bit of that off. It's a little bit right there. I'm going to switch to 10% and use a bigger brush. I'm going to come right down the centre of the face. But then I'm going to switch to 30%, use my black brush and just take a little bit off the nose there because it's getting a little bit bright. A little bit there too. Okay, back to my 10% brush. And I'm going to come down the arm. In fact, I'm going to go to 20%. And again, if you add a little bit too much, just switch to your black brush and mask that off. So I'm going to zoom back in. And then where are we up to? So we've got Extra Glow. That's what we've done. Now, one of my favourite actions is the skin blending action. So switch to your white brush and then simply mask that onto the skin, and look at that beautiful blend. So gorgeous. If I turn that off and on so you can see, it really does make that skin look beautiful. Oh, I love it so much. Just going to switch to my black brush, just where I've gone over a little bit there. And we'll come up the other arm. Turn it off and on. Beautiful soft blend. Absolutely gorgeous. Love it. Okay. So then we're going to go to eyes. So bright eyes. Hit OK. And then I'm going to zoom in. Now I like really, really bright eyes. So whatever you want to use your opacity at, use your opacity. So I'm at 50% and I'm just masking in this part of the eye here. And the same over here. Then we're going to go define the edge. So I'm going to zoom in. And again, I quite like it quite strong. So I have put to use at 20%. So I do suggest starting low and building it up. If I zoom out, you can see that's really defined. Oh, look at those eyes. Then we've got sharpen the eyes and details. So I'm going to click OK. And 100% opacity brush. I'm going to sharpen those beautiful eyes. My gorgeous girl. And then 50% opacity. And I'm just going to go into the lashes. A little bit at the bottom and into the lip. You can even go a little bit on the brow if you wanted to sharpen the brow, which I like to do sometimes. Then you can bring out the colour, which was a step I just missed. So you can bring out the colour in the eyes. But I would always suggest to zoom out and make sure that it looks okay and she's not starting to look like a demon. Because you've overdone the eyes. It's so easily done when you zoomed in, honestly. It can look absolutely stunning. And then when you zoom out, you can be like, whoops, a little bit too much. Okay, so what have we got next? Let's have a look. So we've got the background actions. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can see the background. And we have, excuse me, we've got green, brown and blue. So they're like the main colours that you'll probably use. Let's click blue so you can see. So look how easy that was. Really, really simple. Now, if you've got chairs or anything like that and they've got gaps in it, it might not always pick it up. So this is why you've got the blue mask on as well. So any little gaps you can just fill in really, really, really easily. I'm going to show you all the colours. That's the blue one, so let's turn that off. Then we've got the brown. And don't forget you've got to add textures onto these as well. So once you add your textures, it'll all come together beautifully. So that's the brown. And then we've got green. And you can slightly change the colours as well. So if you come down here and we'll go into properties. And you can add some cyan, you can turn the green down a little bit, you can add some blue, and you can really play around with those colours and play around with the opacities and the different numbers to get the kind of colour that you want to get, and then just close the group there. Okay, so what should we go for? Should we go for brown or blue? Let's go for blue because it's different. We've not done a blue for a while. I'm going to turn the opacity down very slightly so it's not too blue. And then I'm going to come up to the top. Right, let's have a look. So now I have added the Silky Painterly hair into this palette because I use this palette a lot. It's not actually in the collection. However, I am going to show it you because I absolutely love this action so much. You can do it by hand using the oil painting filter, but honestly I've never ever got the same result. I absolutely love this action. I'm obsessed with it. So I am going to show you this action, even though it isn't in the collection. I know that's really naughty, but I do really love it. So I've masked that on at 50% opacity, and just look at that. Look how soft and beautiful and glowy that hair is. So you don't want to come up too high because it can start looking like your hair's greasy and unwashed. However, I do come up and then I switch to my black brush at 50% opacity, make my brush nice and big, and then just take 50% off. So you get that nice feather down. So I do absolutely adore that action. Turn it off and on again. Oh, I love it. Right, okay. So then we've got cool shadows. I absolutely love this. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to turn that off and on so you can see the difference. Look how rich that is now. Now, it has changed the colour of my background. It's absolutely fine. Switch to a black brush and just mask it off. No harm done. Gone. Look at that. So I'm going to switch to, let's 30% and bring 30% of that back. There we go. That's better. So turn it off and on, and you can use the opacity slider. Sometimes that's a little bit too strong, but you can tell it just gives that really nice, beautiful fine art contrast to the image. Then we've got warm highlights. So if your highlights are on the cool side, you can click that and really warm them up. Don't really think this image needs it. Oh, I can do a little bit. Let's turn it down though. Okay, and then I'm going to invert that and I'm going to mask it on the skin because I don't want it on the background. Okay, so just mask it wherever you've got some highlights that need warming up. Lovely jubbly. Then we have, right, I absolutely love this, Painterly Cool. Love this action. I'm going to play it. So it adds like a really gorgeous, cool matte over it. It's like a matte film over your image. So you can turn the opacity down. And then what I like to do is come in with my black brush and just mask off the eyes. So bring all that contrast back to the eyes and mask off the mouth as well. Then I'll zoom out, and if it looks a little bit like this, a bit vampire-ish, I'll use a 40% opacity brush and I'll just bring like 40% down the centre. But it's really nice just left all over as well, so you don't have to mask it off the eyes. It is really nice masked all over. But because this image is a little bit on the warm side, I wouldn't necessarily use that all over. But I do completely, I just love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, so now we've got earthy, no we've not, we've got Painterly Warm, so I'm going to click that. So this is more like on the warmer side. It still gives that film, matte film look to your image. You can see. I'm going to remove that one, but that's that one. And then we've got Earthy Warm. So again, it doesn't really suit this image, but it is really nice, especially on those brown tones. Like if you had a brown background, that would be absolutely perfect. Then we've got, you can't really get the real feel of the Earthy Warm on this image. It really suits those really warm tones. Then we've got Dark Matte. So that'll add a really dark matte. You can use the opacity slider to bring it down. And again, I'd do the same thing. Mask off down the centre at 40% and off the eyes and lips at 100%. Love, okay. Then we have Simple Matte. So it's literally just a matte look over your image. And again, you can do the same. Bring 40% off down the centre and 100% off the eyes. You don't have to use the actions in this order. You can come down and use some of these and then go back up and use some of these. Absolutely fine. Use them in any order. And you will, the more you use this set, you'll find your own way of using them. You'll get your own little routine of using them, and you'll find it much easier to follow your own routine than somebody else's. You've got to make them work for you. So then we've got add texture. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to go and do what it says. So go to place embedded, choose your texture and place your texture and play with the next action. So we go to file, place embedded and choose a texture. I'm going to go with this one. Okay, I'm going to go edit, transform and rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. And then I'm going to size that to the image. And then I'm going to go straight to the next action, which is texture adjustments. So I'm going to click that. Now, it's up to you what you want to do here. So you can leave the texture all over and mask a little bit off, or you can leave it all over and just leave it all over and carry on with the next adjustments. You can change the opacity to 100% and change the blending mode to soft light. And just play around with the blending mode basically like you would with any other texture. However, I am going to leave it all over the image and I'm going to show you now. So if I turn that off and on, you can see it's added that really nice soft matte and it's added those really nice cool tones. You got all those beautiful textures in the background. Now, if I come to the next action, which is the magical finish for texture. So we've got the magical finish without texture and one for texture. So I'm going to click the one for texture and I'm going to hit OK. So if you changed the blending mode to soft light and you masked some off your subject, then use the one underneath. However, if you've got the texture all over your subject, then this is the one you want to use. So I'm going to switch to my white brush. I'm going to use 100% opacity and I'm going to mask that down. So I masked it right down the centre there and I'm going to mask it on the hands. Maybe a little bit up here. So we're just bringing all of that focus back here. Then we can play around with the opacity of the black brush now. So we can bring that down. Let's switch to the black brush. I'm going to take that off the hair. So just where I've missed there. And then I'm going to switch to 40% and I'm just going to bring a little bit off the skin to soften that a little bit more. And if you want to bring some back, then just switch to your white brush and bring some back. Okay, let's zoom out. No, I want that back. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off and on. So you can see it really brought that light back to the image. And then what I'm going to do is make another frequency separation layer. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to call this one texture. I'm going to call this one colour. I'm going to turn texture off and staying on the colour layer. I'm going to go to blur and Gaussian blur. And then I'm going to leave it at 9.5. I'm going to come up to the top, turn that back on, and I'm going to go to image and apply image, add, and then make sure we've got the right background layer. So select the colour, make sure that it's invert, scale is 2, hit OK, and turn the blending mode to linear light. Then I'm going to come down here and copy that background layer, that colour layer, sorry. Using my lasso tool at 15 pixels feathered, I'm going to draw around here and I'm going to go to filter, blur and Gaussian blur, and then I'm going to turn that up to about there. Let's turn that off and on. Yeah, so all those tones are beautifully blended. So let's do the same here. We'll do the same here. And here. So basically anywhere that looks like it needs the tones blending, that's what I'm doing. And it just softens the skin but doesn't destroy the texture. So I'm going to do the arms as well. And if you draw in the wrong place, don't worry, you can move your lasso tool, your lasso selection quite easily. Just like this. So you don't want to go too close to the edge. Again, I'm not explaining this too much because I will have a more in-depth tutorial on this. Okay. Lovely jubbly. So now I'm just going to use my brush tool, and you can see this line here in the eye. I'm going to fix that. So if I fixed it with this, because we're feathered, no, it's not fixing it. Right, okay. So I'm going to use my brush tool at 20% opacity, and then I'm going to hold Option or Alt and select colour from here, and I'm literally just going to mask that over. In fact, I'm going to turn the opacity up to 70%. Back down to 20% for this part here. Then I'm going to go to texture, because you can clearly see that that's not changing now, so that must mean it's texture. And I'm going to use the patch tool. I'm going to patch that away. And this bit too. Perfect. Much better. Much, 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 much better. Okay, so now I'm going to come up to warm the highlights, because I just feel like we need to warm those highlights a little bit. So where have they gone? Here they are. Okay, and then I'm going to turn down the opacity. Lovely. Then I'm going to go to colour balance, and I'm going to go in the shadows, and I'm going to add about 4 into there, and then I'm going to invert that. I'm going to switch to my white brush at 50% opacity, and I'm going to build that up, and then I'm just going to go in where the shadows are a little bit cool, and I'm just going to warm those up a little bit. Turn that off and on. You can add some in the hair if you wanted to warm the hair up. Okay, I'm now going to use the matte action. So before, when I said that you can come up and use these actions after you've used these ones. So simple matte, and I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Well, quite a lot actually. Let's turn it down to 48. Then with my black brush at 100% opacity, I'm going to mask off the eyes and off the mouth. I'm going to turn that off and on. I'm going to leave it all over like that. Okay, so I'm going to flatten. And then I'm going to go to history and take a snapshot. And we'll look at before and after. Before and after. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you're loving your actions. Take care, everyone.